jazz fans, arrangers, and other interested people. Today we're going to discuss writing for doubles, flutes and clarinets, in a big band setting. The big band was created for swing dancers, to play music for swing dancers back in the 1920s and 30s. So it's mostly saxophones, but also clarinets. Very little flute playing back then. There was a little bit, a couple of the bands, but it didn't really come into widespread use. Flutes didn't come into widespread use in big bands until the 50s. Frank West with the Count Basie Orchestra he was very influential on that. So you might want to check out Cute, and you can hear Frank playing flute with the Count Basie band. Neal Hefti's great composition, Cute. So typical doubles that we have in a big band nowadays is a flute, clarinet, and bass clarinet. Bass clarinet is usually written on the baritone book. Sometimes the baritone player might also be required to play clarinet, or even less often flute, but it's possible. The other altos and tenors generally are required sometimes to play flute and clarinet, unless you know who the people are in your band. If they're not good doublers, then you keep that away from them. If they're really good, then you want to write for them. Using these woodwind doubles gives you a greater palette. You can bring in some orchestral kind of sounds. Non-typical doubles in a big band would be alto flute, bass flute, oboe, English horn, and bassoon. Of course, all those are possible if your players actually play those instruments. Gil Evans uses them extensively in his music, especially the albums with Miles Davis. So they give you, again, more orchestral colors. The problem with all of these woodwind doubles is that they are softer instruments than saxophones and brass, and certainly softer than once the drummer hits the ride cymbal, he can wipe out all these instruments. So a word of caution is write specifically for the rhythm section. Well, I don't use amplification for the bass or piano. If you do, you're not going to be able to hear any of these woodwinds. And as far as the drummer, a lot of times just even having the hi-hat on 2 and 4, or whenever he's going to use the hi-hat with his foot, and that can be overpower the flutes. So sometimes I'll notate on the drum part, no hi-hat. Yeah, as opposed to saxophones, which are a natural saxophone section, all these woodwinds are really a collection of solo instruments. And I tend to think of them, when I'm writing for them, I tend to think of them as soloists. And I write the melodic lines that are really solo-oriented, rather than, I might not write like a saxophone solely for the flutes. It doesn't really sound great like it does with saxophones. When you're writing for the brass, just be aware that the brass are going to be louder than the woodwinds if the brass are playing open. So if you put mutes in the brass, that brings them down to the dynamic level of the woodwinds. So that is one solution. Let's listen to, this is an arrangement I did of a Harry Warren tune called There Is No Music. And there's bass clarinet. You can clearly hear the bass clarinet being used in this as like an independent kind of bass part.
Stars without glitter, sun without gold.
You can write for the flute, and say you have 2 flutes in this section, and you can support them with clarinets, bass clarinet, or even with a tenor saxophone if he plays subtone. We do that in our band. Subtone makes it softer and brings it into the same dynamic range as the woodwinds. Or it can be one flute and have the clarinets and bass clarinet. They can accompany that. That's fairly common. I like using the flutes in their could be in their lower register or their middle register and their upper register, and then have the clarinets play harmonic things below them. We can listen to an example. This is a composition of mine called "The Opposite End of the Bar." This is the verse of the piece, and you'll hear the flute, the combination of flutes and clarinets below that.
Twinkling eyes and the whir of a blender. It's awfully noisy, but home is too quiet. No one to talk to except the bartender whose well-practiced patter is less than a riot. Romantic prospects, none worthy of mention, except for the one who just caught my attention.
Back in the 90s, I wrote a show called Harlem Nutcracker. This next piece is called Midnight Stroll. It's an arrangement from the Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker, the Pine Forest section. And it's got flute, alto saxophone, trumpet, and tenor, and it's voiced in drop 2. So it's an interesting blend because the trumpet is open, so the players have to be sensitive to the dynamics, but because it's drop 2, the flute is in a higher register, the alto is on top of the trumpet, and so the trumpet is in a really middle register that he can play softly, and he's not going to compete with the flute. But like I say, they all have to be sensitive to this. It's a really interesting color. See what you think. You'll find that using woodwinds can be very useful in vocal arrangements. This next example that we're going to play off with is my arrangement of Harry Warren's "This Is Always." It uses the 2 flutes in contrary motion with the clarinets underneath it.
This isn't just midsummer madness, a pleasing glow of moment's gladness. Yes, it's love. I knew it on the night we met.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to hearing your comments.
With every kiss I know that this is all